Hello guys and gals, imagine that you are a player in a popular online game and that you fall in love with a girl. Well, sorry, but it turns out that the person you proposed to is actually a man. Years later, when you are part of another guild, you agree to meet them in real life, only to find out that all the members are real cute girls from your own school. Wow, that's what "and you thought there is never a girl online" is all about. Let's begin. Our story begins in a fantastical universe where a woman confesses her love to a young knight and proposes marriage. Despite his rejection, she remains unperturbed and persists in her proposition. Soon after, within the confines of a dungeon, we encounter the aforementioned knight known as Rujin, joined by a team comprising of the love-stricken woman Echo, another knight named Schween, and a mage called Master. As they battle against orcs, it's revealed that the entire setting is part of an online RPG game, and we see our main character in his room engrossed in this game. The following day introduces us to the protagonist's real-life persona, Nishimura Hideki, a school student and an avid anime and manga enthusiast. Otaku, a Kangen, a classmate, proceeds to ridicule him for his otaku tendencies, and despite a friend's intervention to defuse the situation, she leaves brusquely. Subsequently, a teacher announces an impending assembly instructing everyone to head to the gymnasium. En route, Hideki bumps into a noticeably timid girl who hastily departs. Inside the gymnasium, the assembly commences with a speech by the student council president, Gashoin. As evening sets in, Hideki resumes his gaming escapades in Legends of Age or Lay, the online RPG from earlier. He elaborates on the game's mechanics, mentioning that he created a clan, Alley Cat, with friends he made in-game about a year prior. He also mentions his in-game wife, Echo, attributing the virtual marriage to his lackluster love life in the real world. In the virtual realm, Rujin Hideki engages in a conversation with his friends, during which the subject of love confession surfaces, triggered by Schwein's anecdote of receiving a real-life confession. Echo, who despises real-life romantic advances, confronts Rujin about his repeated rejections of her. Although he attributes his behavior to his aversion to in-game marriages, she refutes his claim by revealing her knowledge of a previous rejection he suffered within the game. She recalls her own confession and how the in-game female recipient turned out to be an older man. This experience led her to leave the clan and play solo until she reached the realization that the player's real-life gender was irrelevant. All that mattered to her was their avatar's attractiveness within the game. This admission draws amusement from her friends. Akko extends her apologies for raising the topic and reaffirms her love for Rujin. This declaration leaves our protagonist grappling with the challenge of separating his real-life emotions from in-game sentiments. Akko confesses her love for books, while Master reveals her real-life persona as a high school girl. Met with skepticism, she proposes a real-life meeting. The day of the meet arrives, with Hideki waiting at the designated location. He is soon joined by Akko, who recognizes him and clings to his arm. Akanen's arrival surprises Hideki, as he discovers her in-game identity as Schwein. The group is finally completed by the arrival of the student council president, Master, and their inaugural real-world meeting commences. They head to a cafe for introductions, starting with the president, Goshoin Kyo, in real life, followed by Segawa Akanen, the real-life counterpart of Schwein. Hideki introduces himself next, and finally Tamaki Echo, the person behind Eiko's in-game persona. They uncover that they all attend the same school and that Akane, Eiko, and Hideki share the same year level. In the midst of their conversation, Hideki inquires about Akane's rejection of Maida, the boy who confessed his feelings for her. She justifies her decision as an attempt to minimize her online presence. Akko suggests that Akane could marry within the game, thereby combining gameplay with spending time with a loved one, akin to her relationship with Hideki. This remark reminds Hideki of the remarkable reality of having Akko as his in-game spouse. The meeting persists, during which Kiro reveals that his father is a director of the school and that his family owns several businesses and schools. Despite their wealth, they are highly stringent and discourage friendships. As such, he persuaded them to allow him to engage in online gaming, through which he met everyone present. Their discussion about the game carries on until dusk, following which they part ways. He expresses remorse for presuming they were all males, to which Akane retorts that any friendly behavior from him at school would be met with physical retribution. Akko departs with Hideki. En route, he confesses to her that his in-game agreement to marry her was based on his fondness for her, disregarding her gender, age, or other personal information. This makes Akko elated. She reciprocates his sentiment and professes her love for him, which leaves our protagonist grappling with his emotions. Later in the evening, the entire clan is engrossed in the game. Schwein undergoes a character transformation to more closely resemble Akane. Kyo instructs them to address her as Master in school, and they gradually begin saying their goodbyes. Even Echo signs off, remarking about her impending shower, which stirs our protagonist's imagination. Eventually, only Schwein and Rujin remain, with the former cautioning him against growing too close to Echo to evade any gossip. The following day, Akane grapples with how to behave around our protagonist. However, the situation takes a turn for the worse when Akko shows up and, ignorant of the need to feign unfamiliarity with each other, approaches Hideki, declaring to everyone that they are married. Akane attempts to remove her from the classroom to maintain her secret about playing the game, but Akko replicates the act, referring to her as Schwein. Once outside the classroom, Akane and Hideki clarify that they disapprove of being addressed by their in-game names and assert that their friendship remains intact. Akko initially struggles to comprehend, but eventually grasps the explanation and accepts it. Upon their return to class, Akko informs Hideki about the lunch she's prepared for them to enjoy together, citing their marital status as the reason. He reiterates that their marriage exists only in the game, leading him and Akane to conclude that Akko fails to distinguish between the game and reality. When they reach Kyo, they explain the situation. Akko elucidates her love for Hideki, attributing it to his consistent kind treatment of her in the game, and confirms the genuineness of her feelings. Akane labels Hideki as a vulture, a man who exploits women in games, inciting our protagonist's ire. He proposes to alter Akko's perspective, and Kyo commits to managing it. Their goal is to delineate the difference between the game and reality for Akko. Later that day, Kyo discloses that she established the online gaming club to assist Akko in differentiating between real fear and the fear experienced in games. Initially, Akane is reluctant to participate, but the state-of-the-art computers in the club persuade her to join. As night descends, our protagonist finds himself alone in the game when he unexpectedly encounters Nekoheim, the girl to whom he once confessed his feelings. Chapter 3. We observe Rujin conversing with Nekoheim, sharing how their experiences helped him distinguish between the real world and the game. She expresses delight in seeing him again. The following day at school, Akko appears in Hideki's classroom, addressing him as her spouse or sweetheart. This triggers a teacher to approach him, inquiring if they're in a relationship, given that Akko seemingly lacks friends. This conversation is interrupted by Kyo, who escorts our protagonist to the club. At the club, it becomes evident that Akko lacks proficiency in the game. Hideki steps in to teach her, providing guidance on outfit selection and gameplay strategies. At the day's end, while walking home, Hideki and Akko engage in a conversation. Akko confesses her habit of skipping classes, but expresses confidence in graduating with his support. During a refreshment break, she shares that her parents are seldom at home, which leads her to frequently indulge in games. The next day sees them making significant progress in the game, yet Akane brings to their attention the loss of focus on the club's primary objective. Kyo reinforces this concern by alerting them of the impending club closure if they fail to secure an advisor. Later, we find Hideki in the game as Rujin, seeking Nekoheim's counsel regarding Akko. Nekoheim warns him of Akko's unpredictability and the potential for a serious fallout from a single misstep. Shifting back to reality, Hideki has another conversation with Akko, attempting to set boundaries by stating that they are friends rather than spouses, and that his real name isn't Rujin. Upon discovering that he has been chatting with another girl, Akko reacts furiously. Back in the game, Hideki informs Nekoheim about Akko's discovery. As Nekoheim takes leave, Akko makes her presence known, prompting our protagonist to reveal that Nekoheim was the man he confessed to. Enraged, Akko departs, vowing to retaliate against Nekoheim. The subsequent day sees Akko's absence from school, and in the club, she logs into the game to announce a scheduled in-person meeting with a man from the game. She echoes Hideki's words about separating game from reality, insisting that Rujin shouldn't concern himself with her real-life actions. As dusk falls, our protagonist is shown riddled with anxiety when Akane and Kyo arrive, informing him that Akko's meeting is slated for 6:00 p.m., initially resistant. He eventually acknowledges his genuine affection for Akko and his desire to protect her in real life, prompting him to rush to her. Upon finding her, Hideki vociferously declares himself as her husband, refusing to allow her to meet unknown men from the game. In response, Akko reveals that Nekoheim is in fact Sato, their teacher, leaving our protagonist dumbfounded. Sato clarifies that her preference for identifying as a man is to avoid unwarranted attention. Akko takes this personally, attempting to assault her with a staff from her backpack. Hideki intervenes, but Sato effortlessly subdues both of them. The scene then transitions to the club, where Sato consents to assume the role of the club advisor, largely due to Kyo's coercion, but stipulates that everyone must attend classes consistently. We now witness our protagonist explaining to Akko the events that unfolded post his confession to Nekoheim and his encounter with an extremist clan whose sole purpose was to play the game. At this juncture, Akiyama, Akane's friend, walks by and observes Akko's difficulty in separating game from reality. Returning to the club, they relay Akko's situation to Sato, but everyone else attempts to rationalize her actions, acknowledging that they too have been confused at times. This prompts Sato to suggest disbanding the club, but Kyo, holding some blackmail material on her, convinces her to allow them to continue their activities while she heads to a meeting. After class, Akko is disheartened because she didn't acquire any rare items from the numerous things Kyo purchased for her. She confides in Hideki about her chronic bad luck in life and her reluctance to continue playing. Our protagonist attempts to uplift her spirits by inviting her out for ice cream, which succeeds in cheering her up. The next day at school, our protagonist's friends jest about Akko, and when Akane shows up, he attempts to greet her, but she silences him with a stern look. Akiyama steps forward and apologizes for her friend's behavior. Shifting to the club, a visibly fatigued Akko arrives, explaining that the increased frequency of her visits to Hideki has led to her classmates teasing her, and she is uncomfortable with the attention. Akiyama enters the room and is surprised to learn that Akane plays lei with them. Akane, in denial, escorts her friend out of the club room, dejected that her school life is essentially over. Subsequently, we see Hideki and LA as Rujin waiting with Echo for the others to log in, but they doubt whether Akane will join. They decide to proceed on a date, reminiscing about their first meeting in the game. Upon arriving at an inn and spotting a couple in a room, Echo suggests to Rujin that being married, they can engage in intimate conversations and starts describing what she wants him to do. This frightens him, causing him to exit the inn. As they continue their journey, they run into Nekoheim, who had intended to regroup her old clan. The clan members misinterpret our protagonist as a stalker and prepare for a fight, but he departs with Eiko. Later, he encounters a girl named Set being attacked and intervenes, realizing she's a novice. Her familiarity with him leads Eiko to suspect him of cheating, but he assures her that he doesn't know Set and that his intent was merely to assist a newcomer. The following day at the club, Akane is in high spirits as Akiyama has agreed not to disclose their online gaming activities. Inside Lei, everyone is prepared to begin, but their plans are interrupted when Set appears and rushes towards our protagonist, clinging to his arm, which agitates Eiko. Rujin introduces Set to the group, with Schwein declaring she'll take care of her. Set, however, refuses to let go of our protagonist, expressing her preference for him, all while Akko watches on, visibly upset. The following day, Akko proposes that they try out other online games, leading them to play Ultra Force, a shooting game in which Eiko excels. The subsequent day, our protagonist feels worn out from the overnight gaming session, while Eiko starts likening real life to the shooting game. Suddenly, Akiyama appears, inquiring about LA, and reveals that she is Set, a revelation that shocks everyone, including Akane, who spirals into a bout of depression, claiming her high school life is ruined. Akko is even more devastated when Akiyama clasps Hideki's arm and clarifies to Eiko that their relationship in reality is not as intimate as it is in the game. Despite Hideki's attempt to placate Eiko, she breaks down and flees. Following this incident, they consult with Sato, who advises giving Akko some space. However, days elapse without any contact or update from her. Concerned, Hideki decides to log into Lei as Rujin to find her. He does locate her, but she informs him of her intention to maximize her power to reincarnate as a new character in the game. She also plans to drop out of school, expressing her desire to inhabit Lei solely and her disinterest in the real world. Initially worried, they ultimately interpret her decision as her attempt at self-improvement. Hideki expresses his intent to aid Akko, but in his own unique way. At twilight, while heading home, Hideki and Akane share a moment where she confesses that she feels she could spend eternity with him and implores him to bring Akko back. The next day, Hideki visits Eiko's house, where he is warmly welcomed by her mother, who is familiar with him courtesy of her daughter. She also seems comfortable with him being referred to as her son-in-law, and even leaves them alone in the house, entrusting him with the key to Eiko's room. Our protagonist announces his intention to enter her room, and despite Eiko's refusal, he proceeds to do so, finding her clad only in underwear. Both are startled, and Hideki promptly shuts the door, waiting for her to dress. Upon Akko's invitation to re-enter, he discovers her completely Eiko confessing she was mentally preparing herself. He quickly exits again, asking her to get dressed before he can enter. Upon his final entry, Akko anticipates his plea for her to return to school. However, Hideki informs her that his sole intention was to play with her. He spends the entire day coaching her on Lei. Eventually, when they notice that the girls have logged into the game, Hideki, utilizing the laptop provided by Kyo, also connects and they join their friends in the game. As Rujin, Hideki informs Nekoheim of his plan to quit school. Initially hesitant, Nekoheim remembers Hideki's request to trust his method and agrees. In Eiko's room, she confronts our protagonist, stressing that his decision would mean losing touch with all his friends. He makes her realize that the same applies to her situation and assures her of his enduring presence and their capacity to play together always, successfully persuading her to return to school. Later at school, we witness Eiko stepping into her classroom, promptly besieged with questions from the girls, making her anxious. Suddenly, Akiyama appears, announcing to the class that Akko has a boyfriend who visited her out of concern. This revelation garners admiration from all the girls and boosts Eiko's feelings. Within the game, Rujin confides in Eiko about his friend Yuyin, detailing how they vowed never to marry again after enduring rejections. However, Yumin went on to marry thrice more within Lei. Akko reassures Rujin that she won't divorce him, expressing her love. In response, our protagonist reciprocates her feelings but admits in a soft undertone that his affection extends beyond the game, making him anxious, leading him to disconnect, leaving Akko alone. The following day, Sato was seen teaching a class, accidentally referring to Hideki as Rujin publicly. Later, Akko was seen being pressured by Akiyama to choose clothes from a magazine. Spotting our protagonist, Akko dashes towards him for an embrace. In the club, Akko, Hideki, and Akane gather with Akko grumbling about the magazines until Akane clarifies that they serve as guides for gaining high school experience. They all express melancholy upon realizing the massive amount of experience required for acceptance in the real world. Kyo then enters the room expressing understanding of their plight upon being briefed. Hideki proposes a trip to Lei to join Set and have some fun. Within the game, they assist Kyo in finding her style, and she successfully summons her pet, which she names Mutan. However, Akane, as Swain, chastises her friend for disregarding the manual she provided and advises Akko to pay attention as this also applies in reality. Everyone is at ease until Master notifies them of the impending final exams, resulting in the temporary closure of the club. En route home, Hideki learns of Akko's poor performance in her midterms and lack of preparation for the finals. He ponders the potential repercussions as failure would prevent her from enjoying a free summer and delay his confession of love. His contemplation is interrupted by his younger sister, Mizuki, who seeks his assistance with her studies. This sparks an idea, and he promptly exits. The scene transitions to La, where everyone collaboratively tutors Akko in subjects such as history and mathematics. Upon the conclusion of exams, Nekoheim informs them in Lei that Akko passed. Consequently, everyone begins disconnecting, leaving only Akane, Kyo, and Hideki. The latter solicits advice on how to confess to Akko. The next day after classes end, Kyo proposes an outdoor club camping trip in the club, to which everyone, including Sato, consents. During the journey home, our protagonist walks alongside Akko, remembering some notes provided by the girls containing advice on confession. Concurrently, Akko queries him about the type of swimsuit she should wear to entice him. He tells her that any swimsuit would suffice and requests her to halt at a nearby park. There, he dismisses the notes as redundant, musters courage, and asks her to be his girlfriend, only to be rejected by Akko. Later, we see Kyo and Akane at Hideki's house observing his misery. Akane phones Akko to inquire about her rejection. Akko explains that she already views herself as his wife, and accepting to be his girlfriend would feel like a downgrade, akin to a divorce. Therefore, his confession was nonsensical to her. The day of the summer camp dawns, with all the kids stirring the crack of dawn. When everyone gathers, Kyo announces that there will be no internet for 24 hours, prompting a scream of terror from Akko. During the journey to the camp, we see all the occupants of the car, with Hideki sandwiched between Akane and Akko while they sleep. He recalls Kyo explaining to him and Akane that the purpose of the internet-free camp is to wean Akko off the virtual world, which she clings to because reality often disappoints her. Hence, the plan is to make her appreciate real-world experiences, including a heartfelt profession of love to help her distinguish between reality and games. Upon reaching the cabin, they find it's actually a mansion funded by Kyo's family, similar to the private beach they visited. Akko then unveils her swimsuit, surprising Hideki, who compliments her on her beauty. Suddenly, the other girls emerge and seize the chance to apply sunscreen to Akko, and then to Hideki, touching him all over. Subsequently, Sato proposes a swim in the sea. At the beach, everyone is playing individually. After they emerge from the water, Sato admonishes them for not playing together and insists they play as a group for the rest of the day. Later, while in the bath, Hideki contemplates acting more maturely for Akko when she suddenly walks into the bathroom with only a towel barely covering her. Caught off guard, Hideki rises to his feet as she gazes at him before being whisked away into the girls' bathroom. As the night settles, Kyo suggests a barbecue, with Akko being the only one capable of cooking. Once they've eaten, Akko and Hideki watch the others play in the sand. Subsequently, Kyo lights some fireworks, creating a magical ambience, and Akko sheds tears of joy. Seizing the moment, Hideki confesses his love for her, which she reciprocates, filling him with happiness. However, Hideki realizes that Akko still fails to distinguish reality from the game as she perceives them to be a married couple. Back at the cabin, he discloses this to the girls, and they deem the mission unsuccessful. The following day, Kyo escorts them to another venue, the Hotel Las Flores, which is themed after Los Angeles. He provides them with access codes to participate in a special event. They log into the LA event and realize it mirrors the hotel perfectly. Moreover, the entire hotel is arranged to facilitate the purchase of things and game items, even the menu. Ultimately, they end up splurging on various items in the hotel and retire to their rooms to test out their new acquisitions, since the rooms also feature computers for game access. The scene shifts to the game, where Rujin is with Akko. While waiting for the others, she invites him to her in-game room. Once inside, Ryujin briefly disconnects and then reconnects. Akko proposes they engage in a flirty conversation as a couple, and we see Ryujin grinning mischievously as if he's not entirely himself. Inside our protagonist's room, he finds himself in Akko's virtual space when he is suddenly booted from the game. When he attempts to log back in, he's met with an incorrect password notification. He recalls Kiddo mentioning account hackings and in fear, rushes to Akko. When she opens the door, she's visibly shaken and clings to him in shock. In Akko's actual room, he examines the chat history, revealing that an imposter was asking her for pictures. Thankfully, Akko had detected the imposter and rejected him. Back in the real world, Akko apologizes for not realizing it wasn't really him in the game. Subsequently, all the girls convene in Akko's room and deduce that Hideki's password was stolen in the game lobby. Hideki discloses that his character, Ryujin, was entirely wiped out and several of his items were sold. He decides to repurchase them and ask an in-game friend for help. Meanwhile, Akko is distraught, believing that her virtual husband was erased, but Hideki reassures her that only his character was deleted and he is still with her. The other girls then retreat to their rooms to comb through the in-game markets in hopes of retrieving Ryujin's items. Unexpectedly, Hideki reappears in the game using an old character of his, conversing with the leader of an extremist clan who agrees to assist him. In addition, Nekoheim's friends manage to recover her wedding ring. They even find some items at the game stores but at exorbitant prices. Feeling guilty, Kyo offers to purchase them. Gradually, Hideki starts recovering his lost belongings, which delights Akko, attributing it to the power of their love. Back at school, as part of the briefing after a school club camp, Hideki is joined by Kyo, who supports it by emphasizing the strength of his relationship with Akko. Once in the game again, the girls learn that the administrators can't apprehend the hacker due to mismatched IP addresses. The Black Magician, leader of the extremist clan, then discloses that the hacker flaunts his thefts, including Hideki's, on a blog. This information sparks an idea in Hideki for catching the hacker. 3 days elapse, and we see Kyo, Akane, and Hideki engrossed in executing Hideki's plan. Unexpectedly, Akko visits Hideki's house, realizing that without Ryujin in the game, she's not his in-game wife anymore. Despite her anger, she delivers the food she's prepared for him and urges him to take care of himself. Then we see the hacker eyeing a blog displaying all the guy's items. As part of Hideki's plan, the hacker falls for the bait, desiring to buy the items posted on the blog. The following day at the club, they spot the hacker in the game who contacts Hideki to negotiate a real money exchange for the items, which is against the game's rules. However, the administrators intervene. It's revealed that Hideki invested considerable time in trapping the hacker because he had made his wife cry. In addition, the administrators have evidence of all the hacker's misdemeanors, which they will use to file charges against him. Furthermore, they disclose that Hideki's old account has been blocked, but Ryujin has been reinstated. And the girls arrive for a sleepover at Kyo's vast mansion, including Akiyama. Despite her apprehension, Akko is there to practice interacting with others without Hideki around. Upon entry, they're greeted by Kyo's numerous household staff, who are delighted to see that Kyo has friends. They're shown to their room, and Akiyama stumbles upon another room within, revealing Kyo's expansive computer setup with multiple monitors. They quickly set to work on their holiday assignments, but Akko, unable to recall anything from school, excuses herself to the restroom. Akiyama accompanies her to prevent her from sneaking off. Post-bathroom, Akko, accompanied by Akiyama, embarks on exploring Kyo's mansion. They encounter a library and discover a concealed chest holding a cherished relic, Kyo's childhood photo album. Suddenly, one of Kyo's maids appears and insists they must join Kyo's fan club, which sends the two girls running in fright. Meanwhile, Kyo and Akane are studying when they hear the screams. At that moment, Kyo recognizes that Akane genuinely cares for Hideki, despite her public pretense of disinterest. While the girls are on the run, they hide, and Akiyama seizes the chance to ask Akko if she wants to be friends. Upon emerging from hiding, they find themselves lost. Thus, in the garden, they begin calling for Kyo to locate them. After they're rescued, it's clear that Akko hasn't completed her assignments, so they insist she finish them before dinner. At the meal, Akko plays a practical joke on Akane using the finger-washing bowl, leading to the group deciding to visit the hot spring bath together. Within the enormous bath, Akane vents her frustrations about being the only one with small breasts. As she's helping Akko rinse off, she remarks that Hideki prefers slimmer girls. Akko attempts to video call Hideki to seek his opinion on her physique, leading to a scramble by the others to prevent her. Akko manages to slip away, and just as they're about to seize her phone, she tosses it to Akiyama, who promptly turns it off, making it appear as if Hideki didn't pick up. This episode makes the other girls realize that Akko loses control without him around. As night descends, they all prepare for bed in an enormous shared sleeping space where Kyo expresses her gratitude. At this juncture, Akiyama inquires about Eko's real-life feelings towards her virtual marriage with Hideki. Ako clarifies for the girls, resulting in them feeling quite startled. Consequently, they log in online and seek out Hideki to request his assistance. Our protagonist recounts to Ako his experiences with his former healer Izana and how she was there for him in times of need. At first, Ako struggles to comprehend, but gradually she understands. Seizing this opportunity, the protagonist requests Ako to stop asserting that they are married when they return to school, suggesting that they have a normal relationship instead. Ako, assuming it's a jest, starts to playfully tease him. Upon returning to school, the protagonist's friends continue their friendly teasing until Akane intervenes. She pulls him aside to seek advice on how to become a normal girl again, claiming she has forgotten. Just as they are discussing, Akiyama interrupts, only to be teased about her pet Mutan, which always causes them to lose games. After Akiyama leaves, they wonder about Ako's whereabouts. Our protagonist gives her a call to find her undressed, having forgotten about the first day of school, and expecting them to be online. Despite arriving late to the opening ceremony, Ako receives praise from the protagonist for resisting the urge to skip school. After classes, they head to the club room where Sato informs them about their high school's cultural festival. To participate, they must display the club's accomplishments, which they currently lack. Kyo then proposes participating in the LA Castle War event, a player versus player competition. They plan to win by placing the school's emblem on the flag, then showcasing their victory at the festival. On their way home, Ako confesses to Hideki her dislike for the new event, due to her lack of proficiency, but she expresses her joy about walking home with him. She also mentions that her class will be presenting local food vendors at the festival, but sounds disheartened as she shares this. Later, during their training in Lei, they find that Kyo's character, along with Akane and Hideki, are too weak for the game mode. Only Ako manages to hold her own. They debate between changing their presentation or acquiring suitable gear for combat and decide on the latter. In the initial battle for the first castle, the fight proves intense, and they are unable to breach the wall. They contemplate building a giant, but realize they need another member. Suddenly, Sato's team arrives. They are numerous and powerful, and successfully capture the first castle. However, an even stronger team drives them out of the second castle. The following day, amidst preparations for the festival, Ako suddenly screams. Our protagonist and Akane rush to her. Ako reveals that her class has decided to establish a maid cafe for the festival, and she has been selected as the head maid. She is now responsible for everything, from costumes to scheduling, manuals, and more. Akane reassures her, promising that Kyo and Hideki will assist with the costumes and provide overall support, which calms Ako down. Back at the club room, Kyo arrives with Akiyama and Sato, explaining that she has enlisted their help to bolster the team. They log into the game, and in addition to Kyo and Akiyama, Kyo has also managed to recruit a group of high-level mercenaries known as the Wallersteins. Upon entering Lei, the boys spot the Wallersteins fully equipped with high-level gear. Consequently, Kyo, as the master, proposes an alliance between the boys' clan and the Wallersteins. As they commence strategizing for battle, the boys start to see the mercenaries' foolishness. The Wallersteins begin issuing commands without considering the power of the boys. Even on the brink of assaulting the castle, they use Ako and Akiyama as decoys before proceeding to conquer the castle independently, without the boys' assistance. In the end, the clan leader instructs Kyo to position their crystal, leading to the castle being claimed by Alley Cat, our boys' clan. The Wallersteins then depart, leaving the boys inside. Just when they thought all was settled, and they only needed to present their achievement at the festival, even though it didn't feel like a legitimate victory since they hadn't participated, the Wallersteins violate their alliance, betraying them. The mercenaries annihilate the boys and snatch the castle at the last minute. At the event's end, the boys reappear within the castle. Kyo chastises the Wallersteins' leader for underestimating their true character. Undeterred, he calmly instructs the boys to retreat, hinting at a future encounter with the leader. As the day concludes, everyone heads home. We see Akane sharing with Akiyama that despite their defeat, she feels invigorated because the victory didn't seem rightfully theirs. Nevertheless, she's upset at being manipulated. Subsequently, Hideki and Ako converse about investing effort into their class presentations for the festival. Ako begins apologizing, expressing remorse for her inability to contribute and her disappointment over their loss. However, Hideki commends her, stating that she has grown. In the past, Ako would run away from displeasing situations, but now she endures them. Hearing this, Ako is heartened, and Hideki seizes the moment to suggest that they still have an opportunity to claim a castle next week. He motivates her to strive for victory without regrets. In the days that follow, we see Hideki with Kyo, who will be addressed as president, but Kyo urges him to use her first name, citing their friendship and trust. Upon complying, Kyo blushes, elated as no man had ever called her by her name. However, Hideki shares his concerns about the forthcoming castle siege. Kyo assures him that she has already purchased several items for the battle. Our protagonist worries about the hefty expense, but she insists taking full responsibility for her plan. After she departs, Hideki enters his classroom, finding Akane, Akiyama, and Ako dressed in seductive maid uniforms. They greet him in unison as master. They explain that Kido assisted them in acquiring the outfits, leading him to think that she's handling her leadership role well. However, Ako clarifies that she hasn't accomplished anything else, and they only possess the uniforms. Consequently, Hideki, accompanied by Ako, visits her classmates and explains Ako's struggles. He appeals for their help in creating manuals and schedules. With only a week left, the girls start brainstorming ways to expedite their tasks. Hideki illustrates to Ako the technique of asking for forgiveness and assistance. Just like in Lei, she can reach out for help whenever she's overwhelmed. Depending on others is beneficial, a lesson he learned from online games. Motivated by Hideki's advice, Ako devises a plan for the next castle takeover. When the day comes, she proposes an alliance with the clan that always accompanies Neckarheim. They agree both to avenge the harm inflicted on Neckarheim by the mercenaries and because of their relationship with the boys. Furthermore, she appeals to the Dark Mage for an alliance to vanquish the mercenaries. After contemplating, the Dark Mage consents, looking forward to taking down the mercenaries. Subsequently, we see the three allied clans training together, showcasing their upgraded abilities. Passage is quite clear and detailed, which helps in understanding the plot and events. However, there are some places where wording or tense could be improved for clarity and consistency. Here are the revised versions of your sentences. As the cultural festival draws near, students at the school busily prepare and adorn the premises. Meanwhile, in the online gaming club, the boys strategize the castle siege with Hideki and Ako. They reveal that their visit to the mercenary leader yielded no help, as the leader found defending the castle to be dull. Despite this, Kyo warns that the castle is likely to be filled with competing clans, so they must stay vigilant, especially since they have a forthcoming skirmish with the mercenaries. Back in Lei, Kyo rallies all the allied clans with a motivational speech for the upcoming battle. As the fight commences, they witness the castle, once flying the mercenaries' flag, being swiftly usurped by the clan that held it prior to the battle, betraying our group. In response, Kyo shifts their defensive tactics and appoints Set to manage the siege weapons. Set, with a giant at his side, launches its arm like a missile, demolishing the castle gate, and the battle begins. Though the defense is formidable, Akiyama conjures a diversion that enables them to infiltrate the castle. Slowly but surely, they vanquish all foes and triumphantly seize the castle, relishing the sweet taste of victory. Yet the battle isn't over. With only 20 minutes remaining until the event concludes, the enemy clan is en route to reclaim the castle. All the clans, including our protagonists, rush to combat the imminent threat. At this moment, Kyo, backed by Ako and Neckarheim, launches a devastating attack that eradicates all enemies in one fell swoop. The final 10 minutes of the event are marked by the arrival of the mercenaries, instigating another fierce battle. Despite Kyo's strategic instructions to counter them, the mercenaries' strength overpowers their defenses, breaching the castle walls. Akane arrives with her squadron, but they are quickly defeated, leaving her standing alone. She deceives the mercenaries and retaliates, managing to eliminate one before they strike her down. With just 2 minutes left on the clock, the mercenaries set their sights on our lone protagonist defending the throne's doors. They ready their attack, but Akiyama intervenes, drawing their collective assault upon herself. She makes the ultimate sacrifice, laying down her life for victory. The remaining members of the other clans join the fray, collaborating to vanquish the residual mercenaries, leaving only their leader and the tank. The tank engages our protagonist, also a tank, preventing him from guarding the throne's doors. Bats, the mercenaries' leader, reaches the throne room where our group's crystal resides, but he is met by Kyo's resistance. With only 1 minute left in the event, Bats lunges at her, but fails to injure her due to her stockpile of potions. Bats then calls upon his tank for assistance, who wounds our protagonist before charging at Kyo with his special attack. Ako steps in, causing him to miss his attack. Even though Bats slays Ako, her bravery is admired by everyone in the club. The countdown begins, and when it hits 0, Bats fails to defeat Kyo or destroy the crystal. Our group claims victory, and the game rewards them with a bounty of prizes for successfully capturing the castle. In a surprising turn of events, Bats acknowledges that Kyo's victory wasn't due to her purchased items. She retorts that victory with her friends was the real prize, not the money. Amused, Bats departs with his clan. Later, we learn that it was Kyo who procured the state-of-the-art computers they use in the club. Our protagonist confides in Ako that self-sacrifice for a good cause feels rewarding. Ako expresses her newfound motivation, and he urges her to channel this spirit for the cultural festival, leaving her surprised. The day the cultural festival arrives and we see Kyo and Hideki proudly exhibiting their castle capture victory despite the low turnout. Our protagonist then encounters Akane, who initially distances herself from him but later warms up, inviting him to share her meal while referring to him as a friend. Hideki visits the maid cafe where his friends await. Suddenly, Akko dashes out in a maid outfit. He stops her and encourages her to go back and give it her best, to which she agrees. Before stepping back inside, she greets him warmly, and our protagonist, acknowledging that her greeting might not be customary for a maid, recognizes it as one from his wife. The festival perceives the Sado performing a concert at the school. As dusk sets in, everyone departs, leaving only Hideki and Eiko behind to pack up. Reflecting on the day's events, Eiko shares her enjoyment of the festival with Hideki, who acknowledges her hard work and promises an in-game reward. Misinterpreting his intentions as usual, she moves closer and requests a kiss. But just as they're about to kiss, the girls barge in with Sado, admonishing them against engaging in inappropriate activities at school. Our protagonist clarifies that he intended to reward her in the game, but Eiko continues to blur the lines between the real world and the game. What an ending! And that's a wrap, folks. Hope you enjoyed it.